most people quickly come to the conclusion is their homepage is far too reliant on the copywriting and the text and the complexities. And we all look, all of us in marketing, we labor over the copywriting. You got the words just right. It's got to match the strategic positioning. What you need is something quick, simple, a headline and an image that says, what the hell do you do? Number one. Number two, if you're relying on stock images, people with their arms crossed wearing a sports coat like me, you got a problem. And if you're in B2B SaaS, I just would chuck all of that and just show a picture of your product. Real simple. Doesn't have to be a great picture.
Welcome to the B2B Digital Marketer Podcast, a podcast helping you to end your struggle with digital marketing, helping you to pave a new and better path to target and capture your ideal customer. Each week, we teach you how insiders and experts debunk the dreary and become engines of innovation. Now, here's your host, Jim Rembach.
Okay, B2B DM gang, we're going to have a great conversation today because we're going to talk about something that I think for everybody, if it isn't top of mind, it needs to be top of mind because we're going to be talking about conversion rate optimization and B2B lead generation with Sahil Patel. Sahil, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jim. Really glad to be here.
Okay, so we have focused in on 5 different topics, and I'm sure we'll go a little bit off topic, but still stay within that realm of conversion rate optimization and B2B lead gen. But before we get into that, if you could share with the B2B DM gang a little bit about your background.
Happy to do so. I'm the CEO of Spiralize. We are a conversion rate optimization company. We do is there are 34,000 websites that do A/B testing of some kind. We scrape all of them, find the best A/B tests, and then we run those proven winners for our clients. And our clients are B2B SaaS organizations. I've been doing this for about 2 years. Before that, I ran a healthcare SaaS business for 11 years called ER Express. And I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Wife, 2 wonderful daughters. Free time, I play in a Rush cover band.
A Rush cover band?
I do, yeah.
That's pretty
awesome.
The
nerdiest thing ever.
Well, okay. So as you were explaining that, the first thing that popped in my head is, they talk about Trivago and how they do travel sites and find the best price. I mean, to me, you're kind of like doing that for B2B, split testing and trying to figure out the best information and looking at all those different sources. Is that a fair connection?
I think that's a fair connection because here's the deal. First of all, it's always good to look and see what other people are doing. But if one company runs one test, so what? It's an anecdote. I put that in kind of the category of good ideas. Should you try it? Perhaps. But there's just not a ton of predictive power that says because it worked for one person, does it work for you? But if you see 10 companies all run the same test and they converge on an answer, that's what we call a proven winner. Those are the kind of tests we like to run for our clients.
Okay, so for me, I worked for a consumer scientist for 17 years, where we actually measured customer experience. And I'm talking about getting the opportunity to be given insight into data interpretation, not making mistakes with interpretation, and how a lot of people particularly will do those things. And kind of like what you were referring to is I take a very, very small sample, which may, it's not something I necessarily want to invest a whole lot of money in. And so a number that always stuck in my head that we always will talk about is starting to see some leveling out and some consistency in performance is when we hit the number 30. What are your thoughts on that?
So like 30 in terms of the sample size or 30 like in terms of how many times people do something or answer a question or make a purchase?
From a sample size perspective. So if I'm looking at, hey, I can start seeing some consistency and have my prediction model like you're talking about, the confidence level goes way up once I start getting past that number of 30 observations or 30 types of programs that were run.
First of all, I think that's a great starting point. 30 is good. I like to see in B2B SaaS that a good number is about 100 of anything for a couple reasons. One is just your sample size is a little bit longer. For most B2B companies, it takes them, let's just take let's make it tangible for everyone listening. Let's say on your website, you got a big button that says request demo. That's what most B2B SaaS companies have. Request demo. What that means is talk to a salesperson. First of all, who wants to talk to a salesperson? No one. So the bar here for someone to actually take that action, pretty high. It's a pretty high intent conversion. To get to 100 of those, most companies, it takes about a week to 2 weeks of traffic to do it. And by making that the threshold, you reduce the chance of the signal just being sheer luck. Because maybe most B2B companies, a lot of their traffic comes during the work week rather than during the weekend. But there's time zone differences, maybe there's different things going on. So just the nature of time, if you run a test for a week to 2 weeks, you start to even out some of the fluctuations that naturally happen if you just look at data, 2 or 3 days worth of data, even if you're a pretty high traffic type of website. So that's the first thing. I think the other thing is maybe let's even step back to like, why should you be split testing? Not a lot of people do split testing. Here's a way to think about it. Today, we use the term conversion rate optimization, the acronym CRO. CRO, in the context of today, it's like where SEO was about 25 years ago. Now, today, everyone does SEO. It's just part of life. If you have a website, any kind of digital presence, you got to be doing SEO. Some people do a lot, some people do a little, but it's just a fact of life in digital. 25 years ago, that was not the case. We're just starting to crack the nut, particularly on B2B type of websites to do it. That's where CRO is today. We're just starting to crack the nut. Not everyone's even convinced that they should do it or how they should do it, or when they should do it. So that was the first thing. Why should you be split testing? Like, why not just, if you know something works, why not just make the change? And the fact is, here's a scenario that I think many of my clients have done. They've done a beautiful website redesign. Right, they hired an agency. It looks amazing. They maybe even did a focus group to get some user feedback. New brand, new positioning. It just looks incredible. Runs fast. They launch it, and just traffic goes down, and the conversions go down even more. Everyone is panicking because there's no way you're rolling back to that old site after you just spent 6 figures to make the new one. Let's start with that as a problem statement. The way to get from here to that one, you could just do a bunch of guessing. Really painful. It's going to take forever. Or you kind of approach it like a scientist. I'll appeal to your consumer scientist background. And you say, look, let's identify a bunch of variables and let's test them one at a time. And let's use the scientific standard of you have a control and you have a variant, and you see which one performs differently. And that's how you make your website better.
As you're saying that, there's not a whole lot of organizations that may have the patience for that. So in other words, if you think about this, what's the average tenure of a CMO, right?
It's 18 months or less.
18 months or less. What's the average tenure of a chief revenue or a sales officer? 18
It's
months
that or less. Yeah. It's
So
short.
it's very short. So if I'm sitting there and I'm saying, okay, well, we did all this redesign and we invested 6 figures and we have this significant problem. I'm sorry, some of those people are going to be gone. I mean, that's the truth. And so,
Well,
so when you start thinking about the realities of life, and you start talking about, should I be, or why should I be, or this, that, and the other, for me, I'm like, I think that plays into what you were talking about, or what we have talked about before, in that maybe I need to be a little bit more predictive in the actual changes that I'm going to put in place.
that's right. That's right. So let's take that scenario. You've had that holy shit moment. You rolled out the new website. The traffic goes down. The conversions go down. Your sales team is going, what the hell did you just do? Our inbound went to shit. We got to fix it. Now, you can take a bunch of random guesses. It's going to take a long time. You might get lucky, but the clock is ticking. Or you can say, oh, let's test some ideas. Okay, but that's also really hard. The best thing you can do is say, let's run some tests based on ideas that have already worked for other companies. That's a great starting point. And by the way, it's something that I think everyone out there can act on. You don't need um, you don't need to be an expert. You don't need Spiralize or a company like us. There's lots of good companies like that. You can do some of these things yourself, and happy to talk about some of them. But I think that's a great starting point is steal shamelessly from the best
Oh yeah.
and start there.
I mean, that's what marketers have been doing for decades, right?
That's right.
Okay, so you and I had a conversation before we started recording, and I asked you the question. I said, you get a lot of people who are, asking about things associated with, conversion rate optimization and B2B lead gen, and we identified five questions that you often get. And I'm going to run through those real quick, and then we're going to go back and talk about each one of these. We've kind of hit on them a little bit, but we're going to get a little bit deeper and have specifics into these. Okay, so the questions were. How do I get more conversions for my existing traffic? I need higher quality leads, not just more leads. How do I get them? How do I turn my website into a lead gen machine? And then my ABM testing program really is either non-existent or doesn't perform well. How can I get better results? And then we rebranded or launched a new website or merged our traffic and conversions fell off the cliff, like you talked about that. And how do we get back from where we were? And we've already kind of talked about that a little bit, but I'm going to leave that at the end like it is here. And we're going to come back for a full circle and essentially put everything together as hopefully an action plan so that people don't experience those falls off the cliff. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, so
Let's
let's
take the
go.
first one.
Yep. How do I get more conversions from my existing traffic?
Okay, let's start with the problem statement. You're spending a lot of resources to get the traffic to your website. You've got a search engine ad campaign. You've got an SEO, maybe an SEO agency doing some SEO for you. Maybe you got an agency running ads. You're running ads on social, maybe on Meta or LinkedIn. Traffic's coming in. That's the first thing is you've got to show up at your front door. Now, before you spend more money, convert the traffic you have. Think about all the money and effort you spend into getting the traffic there. It's not unlike, great metaphor, restaurant. Yet people come in the restaurant. You show up and the lobby is dingy. It doesn't smell good. The lighting's bad. No one greets you. No one offers you a drink. What's going to happen? Nothing good. That's the starting point of a lot of B2B SaaS websites. You got people coming in the door, but the room is dingy. It doesn't smell good. There's not a great greeting. There's no one that says, hey, come on in. We'll get you a seat. Have a beer. That's what you want to do for your website.
Okay. I heard
once they're there.
Well, I heard somebody say this before. And so, I'd like you to give some specifics on this because you have the data. Is somebody said something along the lines of a lot of organizations have middle of funnel phobia. And you're like, well, what do you mean? It's really just what you explained. I have this top level and I keep pouring into it, but I'm not able to do the conversion piece that you're talking about. And for a multitude of different reasons. So what are some of the key reasons that organizations have middle of funnel phobia?
I love that term, first of all. I'm going to borrow it and use it with my clients. So middle term phobia, when I hear that, here's what it means is I don't know what else to do. I don't know why people are coming to my site and leaving without taking action. They browse and they leave, or they abandon it right away. And I've done some heat mapping. I've installed something like Hotjar, Crazy Egg. I can see what's happening, but I don't know what to do about it. And when I talk to my team, they tell me, oh, we need better content. Blame the marketing team. The content's bad. Well, that doesn't seem to fix anything. Then they say, oh, no one's in market. They're coming to research. So actually, nothing's wrong. You're engaging them. It's fine. Well, the problem is if you're a CMO, your board, your CEO don't give a shit about engagement. They want our people that come ready to buy. Sure, it's a subset of people. That's what when I hear middle of the funnel phobia, that's what I hear. Jim, do you think I'm hearing the right thing, first of all?
Well, I think you're dead on. So whether or not it is an issue of go-to-market strategy failure, whether it's an issue of ICP I mean, because they're not the same. My ideal customer profile and really understanding, who these people are, what their intent is, what their desire is, talking about the whole timing piece. It seems to me that a lot of companies don't say and can step away from their business and say, okay, for example, we're in a market where the particular solution that we're selling for is high competition and has a 96% penetration rate. So we're not finding new people, right? This is a product that's been around for a while. And so I'm always essentially having to cast off or take over, one of my competitors. Okay, so if I'm only sitting there and doing top of funnel information to educate people about whatever this product can do, I'm not really getting to the point where I can start doing my middle of funnel conversioning, saying that, why are you unhappy in here with your existing provider, right? You start looking at it from that psychological perspective to say, okay, how can we now start sorting and segmenting and really getting to the point where we can have better conversations and deeper conversations to really enable the conversion to occur?
Yeah. And here's what I've learned. And I want to share some things, tactical things that everyone who's listening today can put to use right away. And these are not frameworks. I hate frameworks. I think my A/B testing and CRO brethren will cringe when they hear me say that. But I'm putting on my CEO hat. When my team comes to me with frameworks, I just stop them. I don't want to hear it. This is not about, well, first you should do some research, then you should do a market. I don't think that's super valuable. Here's what I would think. Number one, there's three things you should work on if you have this problem. One is your homepage. Two is whatever page where you ask someone to talk to sales or start a trial. For most B2B SaaS, that's either that request demo, contact sales, get a quote page, number one. Or if you're a PLG type company, it's that start your free trial, start using the product now page. And by the way, some companies do both. Okay. One, two, and then three is if you have landing pages. Not everyone has landing pages, but if you have landing pages, but it's very smart to have landing pages, purpose-built landing pages. Do those three things. Don't try to boil the ocean. It's the first thing I tell everyone. I've had companies that they're worrying about pages that get like 3 visitors a day on their solutions page or their blog. Just put that aside for the moment. 3 places you start: homepage, whatever your conversion page is, and your landing pages if you have them. Number 2, the average person makes up their mind in about 5 seconds. Let's just think about how quick 5 seconds is. So if you're sweating the below the fold content, the nuances, what's on your website, don't worry about it. Okay? Now, your design agency, sure, that's what you're paying them to do. But you're an executive. I would just focus all my energy on everything that's what's called above the fold. I'm going to use some marketing speak there. And the things that people can instantly see and decide, am I in the right place? What the hell does this company do? And is it worth taking a closer look? You're not trying to sell them. You're not trying to solve the problems. Just like, am I even in the right place? Now, here's a couple quick. First, Jim, respond to that before we talk about how to act on it. Just that as a mindset for everyone who's listening.
I mean, I think that's key because you could, going back to that example in that scenario of that highly penetrated, solution and all that. If you were to take, for example, 20 of those companies that were offering a solution to solve that particular problem, and you just looked at that above the fold information, you probably wouldn't be able to tell any of them apart from one another.
Yeah. I want to give you a quick diagnostic test that everyone at home can do to act on that. Okay. Take your homepage, right click on it. If you're in a Chrome browser, everyone can do this. There's a little thing called Google Translate in your every Chrome browser. Choose a language that no one on your team speaks. Farsi, Arabic, Hindi are great examples. Yeah, choosing languages that some of my family members speak. Just translate your homepage into one of those languages. Now go take it to your friends and say, what do you think this company does? Not, is this the right solution? Or should I buy this product? Or what's the ROI on this product? Just answer, what the hell does this company do? And if they can't tell you, you have a problem. Start there. Because that is the quickness with which your average person that comes to your site, low to medium intent, is making a decision about, am I in the right place?
Yeah, so that congruency with themselves, and that congruency with whatever brought them there. Because
That's right.
I mean, you talked about ads and paid ads, and I would dare to, not this is, kind of a swag in regards to the number I'm giving, but I would say 90% of the time, on a paid ad scenario, there isn't congruency between the ad itself and where that ad takes you.
Yes. Yes. By the way, if you're sending ad traffic to your homepage, not a great idea.
No.
Okay. Now, speed really matters. Your brain processes images much faster than text, and it trusts images. If we think back to our ancestors, right? If they see a predator coming to the cave, they immediately know, run back in the cave. Like, our brains are wired to process images. Right. So the Google Translate trick, it's a little bit of a parlor trick. It's also fun, right? Everyone can do it. You don't need fancy software to do it or any software to do it. What most people quickly come to the conclusion is their homepage is far too reliant on the copywriting and the text and the complexities. And we all look, all of us in marketing, we labor over the copywriting. You got the words just right. It's got to match the strategic positioning. What you need is something quick, simple, a headline and an image that says, what the hell do you do? Number one. Number two, if you're reliant on stock images, people with their arms crossed wearing a sports coat like me, you got a problem. And if you're in B2B SaaS, I just would chuck all of that and just show a picture of your product. Real simple. Doesn't have to be a great picture. It just tells people, like, would you run a car ad? Would Ford run a car ad without the car in the ad? No. How would you know it's a car ad? Just see a person sitting. Why would a B2B SaaS website not show a picture of the product? I'd show lifestyle images. When I say lifestyle, it's just, smart looking people sitting in a conference room. It's number two, right? I think, and then number three, just have a really simple, bold claim of what you do. Like these kind of vague aspirational things, like, better software for something. I'm just like, what is it even? Just say what you do. By the way, Jim, I love on peer roundtables. When I go to your homepage, it says executive peer groups. Awesome. Excellent. I mean, just like there's no doubt what this is. That's what you're going for. So I just like three things if you're trying to get more conversions from your existing traffic. Like if you just do those three things, and I'm not even talking about A/B testing here, just things that everyone can act on right away. If you're a CMO and you're listening to this, or you're a demand gen leader, you can go to your team and say, hey, let's workshop this. And probably inside of an hour, you can come up with some answers.
You talked about the whole copy thing and creativity and, flair and flash but if you look at where the conversions occur the most and at what level the writing and the content and the copy is, I hear more and more people are actually going down to like the third grade level
Yes.
in order to get to the point of simplicity.
100%. 100%. I will tell you, when I write copy, I use a grader. When I write for example, I try to share content 3 times a week on LinkedIn. I use a grader. I max, if anything is above fourth grade, it doesn't get published. That's my absolute max. And I aim for second grade.
I mean, that's a shocker to most people. They're like, oh, no, we want to be the sophisticated and we want to be the, this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, then
Yeah,
you're going to be stuck with the whole middle of funnel phobia problem.
that's right. I mean, a great image. I mean, try and imagine your audience coming across your website. Now, when you're building your website, most people are sitting in front of a big, high def 24-inch monitor. It's the first thing. But in fact, your audience is often browsing on a mobile device. Number one. Number two, they imagine that they're intently looking at the screen like they're reading the Dead Sea Scrolls. But in fact, they're probably talking to their spouse about the grocery list, wondering what happened to the dog, figuring out why the kid is crying. and making lunch, like all at the same time.
That's so
Like
very,
that's the attention span to design for.
so very true. Okay, so
Okay.
we talked about, how do I get more conversions from my existing traffic? And there's a lot of good points in there. Okay, so I need higher quality leads now, not just more leads.
Yes.
What
Yes.
do
And I hear this all the time. And particularly, I'm talking to a client and they might say, look, I get what you guys do. And we've tried this game before and we do it, but maybe we do some A/B tests, or maybe we launch a campaign and the sales team comes back and says, you gave us garbage. We just chased down a bunch of leads. These people aren't in market. They're not even our ICP. We're getting people that are SMBs and we're all enterprise, or we're getting enterprise. We're just SMB. What the heck? Please stop. It doesn't feel good for anyone. So there's a bunch of things you can do to improve the quality. In fact, most sales teams would actually tell you they want fewer leads, just better. That's the dream, right? One lead per day and they all turn into a customer. Now, here's what I'd say. First, you should test this. Like run an A/B test to figure out what does it. A couple of things I can just want to be super tactical. One is anytime you're running a campaign, I'll go back to something I said earlier, don't send that traffic to your homepage. Okay. I'm going to go back to the restaurant metaphor. Think about someone that wants takeout food versus someone that's coming in to sit and have a nice leisurely meal. You got to give them a different experience. So you got to ask yourself that person that clicked on a Facebook ad, for example, a paid social ad or a search engine ad, probably pretty low intent. They saw something on the ad that brought them into you. If you just give them the homepage, you're not matching their expectation. Make a landing page. Doesn't have to be fancy. In fact, the simpler it is, the better. Just there needs to be, you made a promise in the ad, you better deliver on it in the first 1 second that someone lands on your page. There's no way you can do that on the homepage because your homepage it's your front door to the entire world. That's the
or,
first thing I would do.
or to send them straight to that demo registration page, right?
I probably wouldn't go there because your demo registration page, by the way, I would say that's better. By the way, that's better than sending them to your homepage. But the demo registration page, it's a little bit like, going on a first date and asking someone about their, marital plans. It's just too much. It's like too high of a commitment. Like you just ask me out for coffee. Maybe we could talk about like where I'm from or get to know each other a little bit. Right? And that person needs some context. So send them to a landing page, mirror the language in the ad on the landing page. And then number two, I think it's totally fair to ask for the conversion on page, by the way, but you got to give them the context first. Okay. A real easy way to do that is just put social proof on the page. And by social proof, I mean put representative logos of the kind of your customer base, of the people you want to attract. So if you're a real big enterprise and you got Walmart as a client, put Walmart on there. Guess what? Your SMBs are probably going to be like, oh, these people serve the Walmarts of the world. This ain't for me. This is going to be expensive and all kinds of things that I don't need. And the opposite is true. If you do if you serve Sahil's laundromat, put a bunch of logos you have that are like that. Because then if Walmart comes, they go, oh, wait a minute. This serves Sahil's laundromat, Jim's, you know, uh, lawn service. That's who this serves. I need high support levels, enterprise level security. And guess what? They're going to disqualify themselves. Second thing to do. Now, this one is, by the way, that's what almost everyone can do it, like right away. Logos, easy to process, images, high recognition. The second thing to do, if you have it, is put a couple testimonials and make it the kind of job title that you want to attract. So if you want people that are, I'm just going to pick something randomly. Let's say you're selling into the cybersecurity industry and you want the DevOps professional. Right? Put a couple testimonials from people whose title is, Jim, manager of DevOps. Maybe even put his company name and headcount under it. And they go, oh, okay, DevOps people from mid-sized companies buy this and are happy. Right? Now, if you're DevOps at Target, you probably aren't going to buy this solution. It's not for you. The third thing, I'm trying to go in order of easy to implement, middle to implement. then a little bit harder to implement. The third thing I would do is add what's called qualifying questions to your form. Before the person fills in their name and email and all that stuff, ask them a couple of questions. Got to be a light touch. And it can be something as simple as, what's your head count? 100 or more, like 100 to 200, 200 to 1,000, 1,000 or more. Now, if you don't serve the SMB market, the SMB person goes and goes, there's not even an option here for less than 100. They're going to leave, but that's good. Good outcome.
Yeah, well, you talk about that whole improving the quality component. I mean, as you did it right there, and and as you were talking, I this goes back to understanding the whole design element, your ICP, why they're there, your marketplace. I mean, all of those elements have to go in for you to be able to, create that type of flow.
You got to do your homework. No
Got to do.
substitute for that.
And then even when you started talking about landing pages, I mean, ideally, what you would want to do is have multiple landing pages that are talking to and giving the testimonials and all that stuff for all of those, people who you want to have conversation with. Because a lot of organizations say, well, we sometimes talk to this, we had this product, we talk to these people, this particular solution, we talk to these people, and that uniqueness has to be present. Otherwise, middle of funnel phobia problem.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And look, there's a bunch of great tools out there. Marketo, Webflow, others. I'm not endorsing any of them. I just know they're really good. That can help you spin up landing pages quickly because they've got nice templates. They make it easy.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, so how do I turn my website into a lead gen machine? Oh man, I think this is loaded, but give a go at it.
Wait, is this the part where I say you should go to spiralize.com and check us out?
Of course.
Okay. If you want to turn it into a lead gen machine, I think you got to be doing kind of three things regularly. So one is you got to get traffic coming to your site. Just nothing starts without getting traffic. Do you need to spend $100,000 a month on paid search? No. There are some audiences that don't even respond to paid search. I have clients don't do any paid search. Okay, so I'm definitely not saying go out and spend a ton, but you got to get some traffic coming there. The second thing you should do is things we just described is just make it in the first couple seconds that someone gets to your website, it should just be real obvious why you exist and what you do and who you serve. Right? The third thing is you should get user feedback. By the way, qualitative feedback is great. There's a bunch of organizations and tools out there. I'll tell you the one that's my favorite. It's called Winter with a Y. Great product. You can go to Winter. And by the way, I'm not paid by Winter for this. No financial interest in doing it. I happen to know the CEO. We use it ourselves. You can go in and say, hey, my audience is IS directors. They will go get at mid-market companies between 300 and 3,000 headcount. They will go find 15 of those people. And you can put like a PDF, a homepage, a landing page, anything. And those people, and they will then answer questions. Is your messaging clear? What's your value prop? How are you different? It's great. And you come back, always learn something. Hey, now again, I'm putting this in order of like things that are easy to implement, things that take a little bit of effort. By the way, it's a very cost reasonable solution. Okay? This is not a six-figure thing to go do a Winter panel. If you've done all those things, then you're getting some traffic. You've done some qualitative user feedback. You've put in some tools like heat mapping or exit polling. So you can understand like, what are people doing on my website? Do they arrive and leave right away? How far down do they scroll? Where do they click? Are they clicking on things that aren't clickable? Right. So I call those the foundations of lead gen on your website.
Well,
If you've done all those things, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I want to stop you on one thing because this is where you and I had this conversation about what Chip and Dan Heath call the curse of knowledge. You
Yes.
breezed past something that I don't think we should breeze past.
Let's go back.
Yeah, because I mean, as you started going on, I'm like, well, wait a minute, we got to stop. Now, you talked about the observations, and have what Winter does, and that type of feedback in the way that it is actually framed. Now, here's the thing, and where people talking about it from a research perspective make some significant mistakes. They're like, well, we could do that ourselves. No, you're biased, right? Oh, well,
Yeah.
we can ask our existing customers. No, they're biased, right? You need to take somebody who has not had any introduction. That's why you can't ask your mama because she's not going to want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
And I mean, to me, when I see people do certain pieces of research and then they start investing upon that, I'm like, your first step was flawed. So I want you to talk about that whole component in regards to where are you getting your data? And I mean, and you can't breeze past that. It's critical, Sahil.
Yeah. So first, 100% right, Jim. Thanks for slowing me down here. It's really important to get cold, unvarnished feedback. Number one. Number two, you should get different types of feedback, qualitative feedback, statistical feedback,
And so
aggregate
let's be
feedback.
clear. I mean, because I mean, again, we have a lot of people who are so used to metrics and measures. And even when I worked for the consumer scientist, I had so many people who really didn't understand the impact and value and how to take quantitative data and qualitative data and leverage the two, together and start looking at key drivers and start looking at, all of that. And maybe it's good to take a little bit to talk about the whole quantitative qualitative element and how that gives you greater insight.
Yeah. Let's take an example to make it super concrete. Qualitative feedback. I had a client and their positioning was uh, the digital city. They'd coined this term. It was very clever. Everyone in the organization was in love with it. We did a winter, we happened to use winter for this, to put together 15 people in their ICP. And we showed them like a web page. I think it was their homepage where it said what this was. I think it was the How It Works page. 40% said not only had they had no idea what it means, after reading, they still didn't understand what it means. Now, you're never going to get that from A/B testing on its own. You're not going to get that from doing a heat map. By the heat mapping is great. You should do it. You're not going to get that from session recording. Session recording is where you record people interacting on your website and then it plays it back for you, like watching a movie. You need human being qualitative feedback to tell you that. And then each of them explain why, like why it wasn't landing with them. Right. So if you have a position that either you aspire to or it's a position you have today, you don't need an N of 1,000 or even 100. If you get 15 people and even half of them say, I don't know what you're talking about after reading this for a minute, you got some work to do.
Most definitely. Okay, so um, let's go on. We talked about coming back full circle. And so we talked about this was
Oh,
talking
we
about,
didn't talk about the last thing of turning a website into a lead gen machine.
well, okay, go ahead.
Well, we talked about the building myth. The last thing, of course, is if you've done all the foundation, then you're ready for high velocity A/B testing, which is where hey, I've got the traffic. I'm doing some SEO. I'm doing some SEM. I've done some heat mapping. I've fixed the basic user experience on my site. Okay. You shouldn't do A/B testing generally until you fix those things. But you do that. Now you can test your way into a higher performing site where you take the traffic you have and you can actually test different ideas. It's kind of like running a clinical trial for your website. That's that's how you get there.
I think that was really important that you talked about that. So, hey, let's do all these other things, make sure we have a good foundation to be able to step upon. And so then now, we can actually embark upon, the whole testing, components and elements. And that's, I mean, to me, I mean, it's kind of like the old Pareto principle that we apply for everything. I've taken care of the 80% of the things that need to be taken care of first so that we can now start cracking into the 20. And that's where high performance comes into plays. I need to crack into that, upper echelon of performance. And it takes all of that work and due diligence. And you said you don't like the word frameworks, but I mean that in itself is a framework, right?
Fair.
You don't
You're
do
turning it back on me.
well, it's yeah, and I know for me too, I have some things that I just don't like to, just kind of get under my skin.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I'm a recovering management consultant, so I kind of recoil. Oh,
I hear you. No, I hear you.
uh,
That's like for me, the word consequences. Unfortunately, we have vilified that word, but the fact is that we have positive consequences, we
That's
have
right.
neutral consequences, and then we have, unfortunately, the only ones we focus in on mostly is the negative ones. But I'm like, look,
What are what are
consequences.
consequences but a feedback loop?
That's all it is. That's all it is. Okay. So we rebranded, launched a new website, merged, and our traffic and conversions fell off. We talked about that, and we're going to go for a circle like that, and we're going to see if there's anything we missed. We hit on a lot of things. So how do we get back from where we were? First of all, I don't know if you, like you said, don't go back, go forward. That's one thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's the first thing. Um, so the first, I mean, I come back to a lot of the things we've already talked about. Like you should go back through. Have you pressure tested and gotten qualitative feedback on your new brand, whatever it is? Most likely you have, but have you gotten cold, unvarnished feedback that didn't come from the agency that designed your new brand
Or your mom.
or your mom? Uh, Two is what often happens in a rebrand is you want beautiful images. By the way, I just told you to use more images than words, and here I am critiquing that. But a great test is again, open your browser, go to your home page, right click to open the Chrome developer tools and turn on Lighthouse. Comes in everyone's browser and measure let me use a technical term here, time to first paint. If you're over a second, you're going to have problems. If you're over 2 seconds, you have major problems. And Google, your Chrome browser will score you. It's a great you can just ship that off to your dev team and go, hey guys and gals, let's get us to under a second.
Yeah. So now you're getting into some of the technical elements
Yeah, I don't want to get overly technical, but I just want to give us kind of real tactical things that everyone can do without investing a ton of resources or buying a fancy consultant or hiring an agency.
And that is an important thing because, I've seen some beautifully redesigned websites when you look at that time to first paint and it's like, you got a problem.
Yeah. The second thing I would do, if you haven't, is install some kind of heat mapping or session replay tools. There's a bunch of really good ones out there. I'm not being paid by anyone for this. I love Hotjar. It's a really good one. I love Session Cam. I love Full Story. They're all really good. It's up to everyone out there to decide which one's the best fit for them, but they're relatively low cost. And what you can do is quickly see if you have this problem. Okay, I want to be the context here is I did a redesign, I launched a new site, and things fell off a cliff. If you haven't done something nice, you do two things. You do the heat mapping, see where are people clicking, where are they scrolling. Number two, because someone will say, "Oh, we have a real problem. The how our product works section is killing us. It's not working." And you do a heat map, and it turns out less than a third of people even scroll down to that section. By the way, that would be normal. Well, it tells you that's probably not. It may be a problem, but it's not the problem.
Right.
The second thing is do like session camming or full story, where it actually captures people using it anonymized. Just watch a few of them, see what they do. You can learn a lot from doing it. Where do they navigate? Where do they abandon? Where do they get stuck? There's a great thing called rage clicking. If someone's rage clicking, it means they're frustrated. You have a UI issue. Right?
A lot of great insight and information. Sahil, how does the B2B DM gang get in touch with you?
Oh, thanks for asking. The best thing to do is one, you can go to spiralize.com, check out what we do if that's something that's interesting. I'd say the second thing is if you just want to kind of hear more about this kind of stuff, I post on LinkedIn every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, always in short, easy to digest bites, 2 minutes or less. Check some of it out. I think you may find some of those tactics really helpful.
Absolutely. Sahil Patel, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we wish you the very best.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Thank you for joining us. Go now to join the B2B DM gang in the B2B Marketer LinkedIn group. where you can connect with other B2B DM disruptors and get access to our B2B DM cheat sheets, checklist, and guides. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, please help by going to iTunes to rate, review, and subscribe. And share the show on all of your digital platforms. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. And always remember, you can automate your lead capture, but you must lure your lead.